of Raga Vartman Chandrika. What we were hearing yesterday was how the Raganuga Sadhaka makes progress through the stages of Anarshana Vritti, Nishta Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, Prema. Then after Prema, the Raganuga Bhakta who's attained Sadhya, he attains the Prakata Leelas of Krishna in order to further develop his Prema in the stages of Sneha, Mana. Stages is probably not the most precise word here, but the condensation of Prema in the forms of Sneha, Man, Pranaya, Raga, Anuraga, Mahabhav. This is particularly for those and having the Kamarup form of Bhakti, Ragatmika Bhakti. So they have to take birth in the Prakat Leelas, the Leelas taking place in the material world, in order to gain the association of the Nityasiddha gopis. And in their association, they can mature the prema through the various forms they take up when more condensed. That's where I think that we left off. It was mentioned that the Sadhaka Rupa is not able to sustain the ananda of the higher forms of prema, and therefore it's necessary to have a spiritual body to do that. And it's also necessary to mature one's prema and the association of the Nityasiddha gopis, or gopas if one is in the Sambandha Rupa form of Ragatmika Bhakti. So first there is birth in the Prakat Leela of, the Prakat Leela taking place in the material world. So you can get that association, mature your love, and then associate with Krishna. Okay, so he's going to elaborate on this more. So let's see here, sharing the screen now. Thinking y'all can see this. So Srimad Bhagavatam 10:31-15 describes extraordinary characteristics of Sri Krishna's beloved damsels of Braja. In this way, the gopis attain supreme bliss by directly seeing Sri Govinda. By directly seeing Sri Govinda, and they experience just a moment's separation from him to be like the passing hundreds of yugas. The maidens of Braja have stated, we consider even the blink of an eye to pass like a millennium. That's 10:31-15. So the gopis' experience of a moment lasting for eons is a symptom of Mahabhav, okay? So here one may ask, can it be said that upon leaving his present body, a sadhaka who has attained prema directly receives a form of a gopi in the unmanifest aprakat braj without taking birth from the womb of a gopi, and then through the association of the eternally perfect gopis, she attains the different moods of sneha and so on. So in other words, why does the devotee have to take birth in Prakat Leela first? That's the question that's being asked, basically. Why not just attain the Prakat Leela directly and by association with the Nityasiddha gopis to mature your prema? So the answer is no. We cannot say this because it cannot be reconciled with the human-like relationships that exist there. Without taking birth from the womb of a gopi, one cannot answer questions like, whose daughter is this Saki? And whose daughter-in-law and whose wife is she, etc. So there's a pastime that's told by Srila Narayan Maharaj in this regard of Shiva wanting to gain entry into the Rasa Leela. So he was advised to take shelter of Purnamasi, because Purnamasi is the one making all the arrangements. Purnamasi is the Leela Shakti. She's the guru of all the residents of Braja. She's making all the arrangements for the Rasa Leela. As the very first verse of the Rasa Leela says, Yoga Mayam Upasrita, that Krishna took shelter of his Yoga Maya. to engage in love's delight, if you will. So he was advised to take shelter of Purnamasi, the worshiper, and then she can satisfy the desire. So he did nice austerity. Purnamasi was pleased with him. So she dipped him into Brahmakund, one of the kundas near Govardhan. And when he came out, he was a gopi. So he had, through that gopi form, he was able to enter the Rasa Lila and see it. So Rasa Lila began, and Shiva was there in this gopi form, observing. And then Radha, Krishna, and the gopis, they weren't feeling as much ecstasy as they normally feel. This is very similar to Gaur Lila, where before Gaur Lila starts doing his Nagar Sankirtan, he was doing only in the house of Srivas Thakur. It was a private event. And this milk drinking brahmachari, he got entrance because Srivas was kind upon him. So he was hiding in the closet while Mahaprabhu was doing kirtan. And then Mahaprabhu suddenly stops and says, I'm not feeling ecstasy, as much ecstasy, what's going on? Someone's here who's not supposed to be here. And then the milk drinking Brahmanas discovered, and Mahaprabhu chastised him very heavy, saying that you think you can attain me by austerities, only by bhakti, like this sort of teaching was coming. So similarly, Krishna and Gopi not feeling as much ecstasy. So finally they noticed there was a newcomer there. So they went to this newcomer, Gopi, and they started asking, drilling her all these questions. Who's your father? Who's your mother? Who's your husband? And because Shiva hadn't taken birth from one of the gopis in the Prakat Lila, all those elements of his identity, of his gopi identity, weren't there. The elements of his father, his mother, his husband, his village. He didn't have answers to any of those questions. So they could understand, oh, this newcomer not supposed to be here. Later on, so they were about to kick him out, but later on, I think he was allowed to stay for some reason. He was able to see some of the Rasa Lila, but then he had to go. So this story is told to explain why one has to take birth in Prakat Lila. So in Prakat Lila, you take birth from the womb of a gopi, and that way your human-like identity can be solidified or crystallized. You have this husband, this is of course for the gopi bhav. You have this husband, you live in this village, these are your parents. So that way, because that is required, those aspects of our identity are required for the movement of the Parakiya Bhav. If you have no husband, this is of course if you're in the Gopi Bhav. If you have no husband, how can there be Parakiya Bhav, for example? So all these aspects of the identity are required. I would like to say, as a quick sidebar, if this is accepted, I mean, Sri Vishwanath is saying it, we accept him as Acharya. But this is accepted for those who are committed to the idea that we fell from the spiritual world, is that these aspects of the identity should already be in place. You should already have husbands who will probably have missed you a little bit because you've been gone for a long time. Of course, people say it's experience like a moment, whatever. So if we already had these relationships, there would be no need for us to, go to the Prakat Lila, take birth, and get all these aspects of our identity solidified through the Prakat Lila. So in any case, the Prakat Lila is required for this reason, for crystallizing the identity of crystallizing one's gopi identity. Okay, let's move on. Interesting story, by the way. So a further question arises, what is the harm if one says that they directly took birth in the Braja located in the spiritual world? The answer is no, it cannot happen like this. Sadhakas who are from this material world cannot enter Vrindavana's special manifestation, which is wholly beyond their reach and scope. Since it is Siddha Bhumi, solely a place of perfection, only those who are Siddha or perfect can enter there. So this is further clarified in the next paragraph. It is not possible to attain the elevated moods of sneha and so on through the performance of sadhana. Therefore, before directly associating with Shri Krishna, Yoga Maya takes the devotee who has attained prema to a manifest Vrindavan that is perceivable in the material universe. One takes birth there at the time of Shri Krishna's appearance so that these moods, sneha and so on, can be perfected. It is seen that practicing devotees, fruitive workers, karmis, and perfect devotees all enter the Vrindavana that is visible in the material world. Therefore, this Vrindavan Dham is experienced both as a land of sadhana or practice and a land of siddha or perfection. It's interesting here because Sri Vishwanath's opening sentence to this whole course is that he wants to describe how the sadhana of the sadhana of the Raganuga Bhakta progresses. And so here we're hearing about even he attains siddhi, that means he attains sadhya bhakti or prema. And after that prema, he takes birth from the womb of a gopi in the Prakat Lila. In the Prakat Lila, his activity is still considered like sadhana, insofar as he is still perfecting the higher moods of love for bringing pleasure to Krishna. So it seems like it's still considered sadhana. This is interesting because also when Sri Rupa Goswami, first of all, when he defines sadhana, he says the purpose of sadhana is the attainment of bhav bhakti, right? Kriti sadhya bhavat sadhya bhava sasadhana bida. That's the definition of sadhana. The purpose of sadhana, or sadhana meets its end when one attains a bhava. But later on, Rupa Goswami describes that the bhav bhakta is also called as a sadhaka. Because the bhav bhakta, although he is qualified for having direct darshans of Krishna in the heart, he has not extinguished all the anarthas. I didn't learn the verse for this, the shloka for this particular statement, but it's there. If you see, it's also referenced by Sri Vishwanath in 1, the first ocean, second wave, verse 2, where, or maybe even verse 1 actually, where Rupa Goswami is describing that there are 3 forms of bhakti, sadhana, bhava, and prema. But bhava is sadhya bhakti and prema is also sadhya bhakti. So why isn't it just 2 forms, sadhana and sadhya? Why is it 3? So it's being described by as 3 because in bhava, the bhavuka devotee has not extinguished all the anarthas, which means the effects of aparad may still be there. So he has to still do more sadhana in order to attain prema. But the sadhana of the bhavuka devotee is not the sadhana of the Rag Marg or Vaidhi Marg devotees, because the whole purpose of their sadhana was to attain bhav. So there's, although bhav is sadhya bhakti, there's still more to be done to perfect his position. And so he has to practice, so to speak, more. So it seems here for the Rag Marg bhaktas, even they have attained sadhana siddha insofar as they have prema. So in prema, there is no fault there. But there's still more work to be done to mature their prema. And that work has to be done in Prakat Lila. So in Prakat Lila, through the association of the Nityasiddha Gopis and Gopas and Vrindavan Dham and so on, they're still perfecting their prema. So in that sense, it's like a sadhana, but it is not the sadhana of sadhana bhakti, but it is the sadhana within prema, it seems, for the maturation of their prema. And therefore, the answer that's being given to us, well, why can't they just go to the uppercut lilas, nitya lila directly in the spiritual world? Because that is siddha bhumi. Only those who have already perfected their moods can exist in that realm. Those who are still in the process of perfecting their moods, they cannot exist in that realm. So they still have work to do. So they have to do it in Prakat Lila. And Prakat Lila is the meeting place of sadhakas, siddhas, and karmis. They're all existing in that Prakat Lila. That's what he's saying here. So in that space is the container through which they're able to mature their moods. And then when their moods are perfected in Prakat Lila, then they can enter into the Siddha Bhumi realm of Aprakat Lila. That's what he's saying here. It's a little interesting. So it's like he's speaking of this as sadhana, although it's not the sadhana of sadhana bhakti. Just as a sadhana of Bhava Bhakta is not the sadhana of sadhana bhakti, but it's still like a sadhana insofar as one is doing work for perfection, more work for the perfecting of their love. Okay, interesting. Okay, next thing. After leaving the sadhaka body and attaining prema, where do these most fervent devotees stay before attaining the gopi form? So the answer is that after quitting the sadhaka body, the devotees endowed with prema, who for a long time have enthusiastically aspired for the direct service of the Lord, mercifully receive darshan of Sri Krishna along with his associates. This occurs even before they attain sneha and all the other moods savored in the Lord's sportive amorous play, Prema Vilas. Krishna grants them their desired service one time, just as he directly appeared before Narada and Narada's previous birth, and bestows upon them their transcendental, blissful gopi form. Okay, so this statement is interesting and it confused me a lot until this morning. I still think I'm a little confused about it, but so you leave your sadhaka body, and before obtaining the Prakat Lila, you have a darshan of Krishna along with his associates. And in that darshan, it says here, Krishna gives them the desired service one time and bestows upon them their transcendental blissful gopi form. So it looks like one gets one's spiritual body and desired service before emerging from the womb of a gopi in Prakat Lila. The analogy has been given. It's almost comparable, but just as Narada, after he attained prema, and then he had darshan of Krishna in his heart, and then Krishna disappeared. And then he didn't see Krishna for the rest of that life. So he had to, carry on perfecting his mood. And then afterwards, he attained his spiritual body and became Narada Muni. So that's his story. The difference between Narada's story and this story is that Narada Muni was still in the material world when he had that darshan of Krishna. Whereas in this statement, the sadhaka, the devotee has left the sadhaka body and he's had darshan. So where is that darshan taking place? Some sacred space, I don't know where. Of course, the soul is beyond space and time, as is Krishna and the gopis. So in some location is probably not even the right word. The location may be consciousness itself. Beyond space and time, there's darshan of Krishna, the gopis, and he awards these things. And then he says this, that very gopi form that's awarded by Krishna, and that let's say inner sanctum of consciousness, a location isn't given here. That very gopi form, by the sway of Yoga Maya, emerges from the womb of a gopi and the manifest Prakat Vrindavan, where Krishna descends with his eternal associates. So it seems that one's receiving the gopi form before entering the Prakat Lila from Krishna. So where is that? That for me, at least for me, that was a question. Well, where is that space that they're receiving? Well, the space might be consciousness itself, and the inner sanctum of pure consciousness. One is communing with God and his associates and being gifted the spiritual form and desirable service. And then Yoga Maya takes that devotee and arranges for that devotee to emerge from the womb of a gopi to participate in the Prakat Lila for the maturation of their prema. So there's that. Last paragraph here. There will not be the slightest delay in this. Okay, so I guess this happens very fast. Because the manifest pastimes, Prakat Lila, continuing to take place without any interruption in one or another of the innumerable universes. Thus, devotees endowed with prema take birth from the womb of a gopi in that universe in which the Vrindavan pastimes are being enacted. When a sadhaka who has attained the full maturity of this practice leaves his body and experiences the manifestation of prema, Krishna always appears before that devotee, accompanied by his associates. Therefore, O greatly eager Anuragi devotees, do not fear. Rest assured, all is auspicious for you. So it looks like this process is very fast. If the comparison to Narada Muni is still valid, then we hear that Narada Muni received his spiritual body and gave up his material body like the flash of lightning. So it happened very fast. So if that is still a reliable example in this regard, this process of quitting the body, having darshan of Krishna and his associates, and receiving your gopi form along with your service, and then emerging in the Prakat Leela is happening quite quickly. And Sri Vishwanath is reminding us that the Lord's Prakat Leela is constantly going on like a traveling road show. In the same way that the sun, when it's setting in one place, it is simultaneously rising in another place. So when Krishna Leela, or even a part of the Leela, is finishing up in one location, it is simultaneously happening in another universe. And so there is no need for delay in terms of attaining the Prakat Leela. It's constantly going on somewhere in the unlimited universes. So we need not be concerned, Sri Vishwanath is saying, for the devotees, for the Anuragi devotees, about all this. This is happening very quickly, it seems. Okay, so these are his final words here. These are some shlokas and some prayers. He concludes his writing here. O Gokulananda, O enjoyer of amorous pastimes, you are like a honeybee attracted by and always relishing the beautiful, fragrant, budding flowers of devotion wherever they are found. You are the deep mind of Mugdata and Sarvagita personified. I offer obeisances unto you. O Lord, you have personally confirmed, I give my devotees the intelligence by which they can attain me. That's Bhagavad Gita 10:10, right? Thus I pray to you, O son of Maharaj Nanda, please bestow upon me that intelligence by which I can render service to you when you are decorated by the breast of the gopis. Three groups of persons are reprehensible. I guess this is very important for Sri Vishwanath. Number one, those who say that Raganuga Bhakti is always beyond all the different rules and regulations of the scriptures, so they're reprehensible. Number two, those who perform archan with faith, but abandon all rules, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 17:1, Dev Shastra Vidya Usragya. And number three, those who perform sacrifices in disregard of the injunctions of the scriptures, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 17:13, Vidihinam Ashashtanam. Because they disregard the scriptures, such persons have repeatedly experienced, are experiencing, and in the future will experience many disturbances. It is pointless to discuss this any further. So it seems here that it's very important for Sri Vishwanath to remind our prospective Raganugiya devotee that his relationship with scripture is still a critical component of his path. Your greed is not dependent on scripture, but your money is, so to speak. Turning that greed into currency is dependent on scripture. And it seems that Sri Vishwanath wants to remind us of that. Not that we think we have utter independence and can do whatever we want and call it Rag Marg. How astonishing. This Raganuga Marg is very difficult to detect, even for the demigods. Many may deeply intelligent devotees come to know of it through this moonbeam, this Chandrika, Rag Vartma Chandrika. And that ends the book. Very interesting stuff. So let's see here. Looks like we got something going on in the chat box. Regarding chanting mantras, I see that the Gopal mantra is being glorified as Maha Mantra. Why not Hare Krishna Maha Mantra? Both mantras. It's okay. The Gopal mantra is considered like the, how do you say, like the sort of like a doorway mantra to help meditate, to help our meditation on the different relationships with Krishna. Each aspect of the Gopal mantra relates to a different feature of Krishna. Klam Krishnaya, Govindaya, Gopijana Vallabhaya Swaha. So the Krishnaya part is like Krishna in general. So that could be Krishna in Braj, of course. It can be Krishna in Mathura or Dwarka also. Govindaya, though, is the name of Krishna related more specifically to his Braja Lila and the relationships that Krishna has with the Brijvasis. So it can be any Brijvasi, his friends, his family members, gopis also. But Gopijana Vallabhaya is a specific name of Krishna referring specifically to his relationship with the gopis. Swaha is an offering of self-surrender. So this particular mantra is the mantra of the Brahma Sankita. It's the mantra of the Gopal Tapani Upanishad. So this mantra is the mantra that they give us at the time of initiation also. So this mantra is also used in like deity worship and the mantra that we will chant 3 times a day. So it's considered as doorway or assistive to perfecting and meditating on our Braja Swarup, basically. I hear that Srimad Mahaprabhu, he chanted so this Gopal mantra is 18 syllables. So I think he chanted the 10 syllable Gopal mantra, which is Gopijana Vallabhaya Swaha, right? Gopijana Vallabhaya Swaha, yeah, 10 syllables. So that means that his meditation was specifically on Gopi Bhav. So the mantra is used for that purpose. Then having fixed that identity in your being, then you chant Maha Mantra. So that Maha Mantra you chant is the Maha Mantra of your lover. Whereas if you chant Gopal Mantra and you focus on Govindaya part, for example, and you're fixing that identity in the being of your soul, then you chant Maha Mantra, then that Maha Mantra is the mantra of your friend or of your child. Like this. So that's all I can say on that right now. Maybe that's a book we can study together also, Gopal Tapani Upanishad. It gives a lot of what Prabhu Saraswati's commentary. Tripurari Maharaj also has a commentary and it's very nice. It speaks about this Gopal mantra. Maybe the husband fell with the wife. Hare Krishna. Discussing about Sadhaka attaining prema. He takes birth from the womb of a gopi and appears in Prakat Lila. This should be in a yuga other than Kali, because we hear that Braj pastimes in this yuga are not manifest at Prakat. Okay, yeah. So the Prakat Lila is going on all over the cosmos, right? So that's what Sri Vishwanath told us. That whatever universe the Lila is going on in, so that universe will appear in. And just to clarify, Prakat Lila is Gokul, not Golok. Yeah, sometimes these terms are used to distinguish the two. Tamir says, in the Prakat Lila, the Premi Sadhakas may not be aware that they are performing sadhana. That's a good question. Probably not. But you're a newcomer, so you're getting the association of the Nitya Gopis. These would be new relationships for you. And you're hearing from them, you're observing them, you're glorifying them. So through that, your own moods are getting perfected. So yeah, it's not like a conscious awareness. Like I'm doing sadhana because I'm trying to get into the Apakrita Lila, you know? No, not like that. At least I doubt it. I've never been there, obviously, but I don't think it is like that. And it is inconceivable of someone perfecting Bhaktya Bhav and Prakat Lila. What would be the role of Siddhabhumi? As Krishna is Kishore there. Yeah, but they're all serving Prakat Lila. Even though the Madhurya Lila is the main Lila going on in the Nitya Lilas, all the other relationships are there and they are serving that Lila as well. And relating to their Krishna according to their particular bhavas. So if you take birth in Prakat Lila as an associate of Mother Jasoda, for example, so you'll hear from her, you'll see her engaging with Krishna, and in this way you'll perfect your mood. And then you go there and the same thing is going on in service to the Madhurya Leelas there that are central to the pastimes in the Prakat Lila. When you talk about a newcomer, the devotees who in Prakat Lila training, the newcomer should be the same in Siddhabhumi. Otherwise, a newcomer will be seen as a newcomer, no matter he's trained up. The devotees in Prakat Lila training, the newcomer should be the same as Siddhabhumi. Yes, otherwise a newcomer will be seen as a newcomer, no matter he was trained up. I'm not 100% clear about the question. Newcomer, once you...
No, I mean to say, Prabhu, the devotees who are training the newcomer would be the same in spiritual world, like the Siddhabhumi.
Yes.
Okay.
Of course, the training, again, is not like a conscious thing. All right, I'm training you up now to perfect your moods, right? And it's happening very naturally. And yes, because in your sadhana, you took on a particular braja. You took a particular braja vasi as your ideal, right? So you can call that brajvasi as your guru, like your Sakhi guru, for example, if you're in Kamanuga Bhakti. So when you become a newcomer in the Prakat Lila, that will be your guru in Prakat Lila, the one that was your ideal and your sadhana. And through that gopi, she's introducing you to this one and that one and the other ones, and you get that association. There's a real meaning of Swajatiya Sangha, the limit, the highest limit of the Swajatiya Sangha. And then you're perfecting your moods there. But that is happening naturally, not like as a conscious thing, like I'm training you up and you're being trained. It's not like a conscious sort of relationship in that sense. At least I don't understand it in that way. Yeah, and then when you go to the Prakat Lila, it's everything there is just going to be natural. Like this is the gopi that you had a relationship with and that trained you up, so to speak. You went through your rite of passage in Prakat Lila. And so it's all very natural there in the Siddhabhumi. Looks like Mukunda's got something.
Actually, I think you answered my question, Prabhu, but I was just gonna ask about the for the devotees who are getting quote unquote trained in the Prakat Lila. I was gonna ask, are the rest of us seeing those devotees like when we go to Vrindavan or something, or it seems like it's more likely that they're like in another dimension or something?
What do you mean?
Meaning like we're not seeing, I'm not seeing some of these devotees that are getting trained up to join the Aprakat Lila, right?
You mean like now here?
Yeah, like do I walk past them on the street? Like if I go to Vrindavan or like, are they not visible to me or? Yeah.
So Krishna Lila already passed here, right?
Okay, yeah.
Krishna Lila already passed here. So now here, the Vrindavan that is here, this is a place for sadhakas and karmis. The siddhas have already departed. Of course,
so quick question about that, because you know how we say that Krishna's pastimes are always going on in Vrindavan. So is that not his quote unquote Prakat Lila?
Yeah, it's his Prakat Lila, it's his Aprakat Lila also.
Okay.
His pastimes are always going on in Vrindavan. That is true. And for the sadhakas, who attain bhava and prema here in the Braja right now, they can have darshan of that within their hearts, right? They can see it on occasion or whatever in their hearts or in their meditations. But yeah, I don't think we're walking past any of the Nitya Siddhas because the Leela is already passed here.
Like, oh, that person looks exceptionally beautiful. I didn't know that.
I wonder how, honestly, there's no way to know this, but how someone, when there is the convergence of the Nitya Siddhas and the Karmis and Sadakas, if a Karmi were to cross like past a Nitya Siddha and during that convergence, yeah, how do they experience that Siddha devotee, that Nitya Siddha devotee? That must be wild. Like, wow, you are really beautiful. But I'm in fact it's matter right now.
Right.
Wow, yeah. You can see why these topics are they're not talked about so openly, because it's just you have to really have confidence in the potentials of consciousness. Otherwise, it's just like very far out stuff, very wild, and it can be bewildering if you don't have sufficient faith and consciousness potential.
Absolutely. That was actually kind of going to be my reflection on the study of this book as a whole, because part of me hearing this is like, this is absolutely insane. Like, this is crazy. But the other half of me is like, because we're hearing about it, it makes it more real. And anyway, so I my reflection was just that if you present this to an assembly of 100 devotees, they may be hearing it 100 different ways, and some of them may be taking it as like, I'm just going to jump to this now. Some of them may be like, this is crazy, I'm out, and some of them may be somewhere in the middle, like keeping their sanity and also wanting to aspire for it. And anyway, so very interesting.
Yeah, that's a very awesome reflection. I really like how you say, on the one hand, it's just like, this is insane, like what? But on the other hand, by hearing it, it makes it more real. That's a very powerful statement, which is true even of material things, right? Not giving any examples, but you hear something and you believe in it, and it makes it a reality suddenly, even if it's fake. So something about the hearing process bringing things into reality. And so on the one hand, this is crazy. What, like, should people even be hearing this? But on the other hand, by hearing it, they can really begin to understand or make it more real in their hearts. And by making it more real in their hearts, they can pursue it. So it's an interesting balance that I guess has to be struck by a teacher of this sort of stuff. Okay, thank you, Mukunda, for kicking that off. Anyone else want to share some things they got from this study of this book, and anything at all? Did Narada take birth in Aprakat Lila first? It doesn't mention that, as he was transitioning from material worlds. Doesn't mention that, it just mentions that he received a spiritual body, simultaneously as he was quitting his material body, like a flash of lightning. It doesn't mention his attainment of any specific world necessarily. Like he became Narada Muni, the transcendental spaceman traveling in between worlds, material and spiritual. So not so much talk about that. I can't say more than that. Okay, I want to hear something that people got out of reading this, something interesting, or what did you hear? That's my question to you. Speak up. We are very less today. Should I just call on devotees? wants to go first? Okay, Samir, you're top of the screen.
I just read till the first part, like the second part I'm yet to read. And in the first part yesterday, I read about those 5 things. So that the first one is like Bhava Maya, saturated with one's devotional mood. Like I was not uh, super clear about that. And the second one is Bhava Sambandhi. So where it says that when you do hearing and chanting and remembering in that mood, so that is called as Bhava Sambandhi. And then the next one is Bhava Anukul. So where it says that wearing tulsi, uh, neck beads and tilak and everything is Bhava Anukul. And then the fourth one is Bhava Aviruddha, which is like not related. For example, like cow protection and hearing other Puranas. But then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that all the above 4 has to be taken as duty, so which I mean that like probably like he's saying that cow protection should be taken as duty. That's why we see devotees uh, practicing that. And then the fifth one is like Bhava Viruddha, which is detrimental to one's devotional mood, where he mentions about this Nyas, Mudra, and meditating on the Dwarka queens. Yeah, that's what I got used to.
Nice.
Oh, yeah, and then one more thing that about the Mudghata and Sarvagyata. So it says that just because Krishna is Mudghata, he is engaging in pastimes with Radhika. So we think that he cannot be omniscient, but as we studied in Bhagavad Sandarbha, that all the contradictory qualities are reconciled in Krishna. So that way, Krishna can be both Mudghata and Sarvagyata, and it is that Sarvagyata aspect of Krishna which answers the prayers of the Raganuga devotees.
Nice. Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Shivani Agarwal, Shri Govinda. Vetavali, you came a little bit later, so you may not have as much to say. I'm studying this book.
Yes, Prabhu, Hare Krishna. It's only my 3rd class here, but it's really sweet listening to all the stuff. But I would like to take my time, read more, and understand before I ask you anything.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Shivani, I don't know which one are you, Sham Gopi, Sham Sakya. I don't know about the relationship with your
Prabhu,
legal.
this is Shama Sakhi.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't gotten a chance to read myself, but I'm going to read. I just like different kinds of lobha that was discussed. So that's a comment I left on the chat box.
Okay. Different kinds of logo was very insightful because being a materialist, I could realize how much hard work is needed to aspire for the true desire. I'm in gym, so can't speak much. Nice. Where is Sham Gopi?
Prabhu Shama Gopi. Okay, I'll have her text you a personal message. So yeah, she has missed your Ragvatma Chandrika classes. But today she told me that she has to go through all the series and she was asking me how many classes I missed. So
Okay.
Yes, I'll have her text you.
Okay, I'm noticing she's not here. Okay. Shri Govinda or Sham Sundari? Okay, only Shri Govinda.
You're stuck with me, unfortunately. She would have something very insightful to say, I'm sure, because she has a greater understanding and what she's teaching yoga right now. And you're stuck with me. And unfortunately, I think my only realization is I'm barely a Vaidya Bhakti. I cannot imagine ever becoming a Raganuga Bhakta. Because as I went through it, there was something. I unfortunately missed the last few classes. And I said to Shama Sundari, I said the last few classes where you're going through the 5 items, it was just getting very complex. I said, I think this is so over my head. And she said, you just have to listen, just keep listening and just keep absorbing. So I've been listening. I have taken notes. I've missed the last 3 classes. So I think I have to catch up on those. And it was a very deep dive. I think maybe a little deeper than I was ready to comprehend. So
we'll return to Bhagavatam tomorrow. But
yeah, I'm ready to go back to some basics because I'm still so lacking in the basics that this was a little maybe ahead of my scale, but certainly was very, very valuable. And just hearing you speak was very, very, very valuable. So thank you. I wish I had something insightful.
Just by hearing, it'll clear up eventually. When you go through hear something like this for the first time, nothing makes sense. That was definitely my experience. Like, what is even going on here? Whatever. I'm just reading the words on the page, but nothing was coming in the psyche. Then you read a second time, you're like, oh, okay, I kind of get this part. Then you read it third time, fourth time. So purification is happening through bhakti. Then they start to clear up in their own way. They start being able to make connections. Yeah, that part about bhav sambandhi, bhav mai, and all that. That was just about how a discerning practitioner applies the angas of bhakti. So there's 64 angas are there, right? So should I follow all of them? Do I follow only some of them? So that part was showing what's going on in the psyche of sadhaka, how he's applying the angas with awareness. So first of all, he has to have a spirit of his devotion. So the very spirit of his devotion is, I want that type of love. That's his spirit. That's called bhavamai. He's just, everything he's doing is in the spirit of getting that particular love. And so whatever he ends up doing, remember he's just chilling. That's the spirit of his chill also. He's just in that spirit. And then when he applies the angas of bhakti, he applies them with the view of them helping him get that love. That's why I'm doing. That's why I hear. That's why I chant. That's why I remember. That's why I do this anga. That's why I do that anga, because that's going to help me get what I want. So it's called bhava sambandhi. And there are things that are favorable to his spirit, like dressing as a Vaishnava and wearing, tulsi and all. These things are very favorable to the spirit. So he accepts it. It's very favorable. And then there are things that are not favorable. They're not favorable. They're not unfavorable. So like cow protection, or I forget some of the other examples that were given there. Hearing the other Puranas, hearing stories about other avatars and so on. Not favorable to his devotion, but it's not unfavorable. So he may also sit down in class on Ram Leela or this thing, and there's no problem there. And then there are things that are unfavorable to his practice, so he rejects that. So those things are just about how a person is being discerning. So in Vaidhi Bhakti, they're not that, you can say it's not that complication. We just try to do as much as we can. There's 64 angas. I just try to follow everything nicely. So that is a spirit in Vaidhi Bhakti, is a little bit more, in that sense, kind of a little bit more impersonal. Because there is no reference point of a sense of transcendent identity to help you discern how you want to do things. So, I'll follow everything. Okay, that is also good. That is also good. That is also good. That is also good. Just like, for example, you'll hear with me sometimes say that, I would say it jokingly, but I'm kind of not joking also. I'll say, I don't want to hear the Ram Katha of my spiritual master, because he tells it so nicely that I might become a Ram Bhakta. So that's unfavorable to me. So I'm just not going to hear it, period. I'm not going to hear the Ram Katha. Now, I usually say that as a joke, because I do hear the Ram Katha from my Guru Maharaj, but I joke like that, just kind of in that spirit. You have to be discerning. I have something that I want, and if something isn't favorable to what I want, then I'm not going to engage with it. So this is the idea of that. Now, it's not super complicated, but when you say it with the terms, then you get really like mixed up. When I first heard all the terms, I was like, what? So it is actually simple idea that you have to be discerning. So this is how the discernment is going on in the psyche of the person.
I appreciate that. I just got so lost because I take notes through the classes. And when I got to that, I was trying to keep up on my notes, and I had to keep replaying and going back, and the wording just kept throwing me off. And I was like, I don't know, I'm getting lost here. So I got a little frustrated.
So then you ask questions on that stuff, like, yo, homie, that I totally, no, just like, no, I didn't get any of that. So then that's why you ask the question, then we can get into it more, because I'm sure you weren't the only one. It happens, it gets confusing. But yeah, that
I
part
asked Shama Sundari because I'm too embarrassed to ask that simple a question when you have such devotees in this group that are asking much higher level questions.
No, I promise you,
I won't bother with that.
Most of the devotees in this group would have very same questions, but no one's stepping up to the plate. So you can ask also. Yeah, but that part is actually, if the principle of it is very simple. These are the criteria by how they make discernment. They're how they apply with discernment, that's all. So they should, okay, this can help me get my thing, I'm doing that. This is favorable for me getting my thing, all right. This is neither favorable or unfavorable, okay, well, whatever. If I happen to be involved with it, there's no issue. Oh, that's unfavorable, nope, that's not for me. So that's the spirit of the application, it's just how they discern. So Mukunda is saying he definitely would have had the same questions, I'm sure. Shamsaki says discussion on, okay, that part I already read. So you said one statement that resonated with me the most, paraphrasing it. We have to allow ourselves to be an illusion to relish the deep loving emotions. This has truly been the Raghunaga platform. Yeah, we have to open ourselves to the possibility of divine ignorance. I think I was speaking like that.
Yes, divine ignorance, that's the word. Yes, that's the word. Yeah, and I also like the sections on where Lord manages forgetting his own Aishwarya Bhav. So that those sections that you read few classes ago, those were my highlights.
Yeah, that's just a very sweet section, you know.
Yes, that was very sweet section.
Yeah, so ignorance is not always bad. There's a good ignorance and there's bad ignorance. Unfortunately, we're experiencing the bad ignorance, and it's really bad. There's a good ignorance too, and we want that. Okay, so we'll pause for the day. We'll return to Bhagavatam tomorrow. I do want to do a few other short little books also, but I'll break it up. We'll finish a chapter of Bhagavatam and then maybe I'll do another one. But it's nice to go through these small little books together, especially as they pertain directly to the purpose of our Gaudiya Vaishnavism, which we can forget in reading the other cantos of the Bhagavatam. So it's nice to be inspired in this way.
Prabhu, if I could interrupt, if you could also give us a questionnaire as you did in the past, that was a very good learning tool for us to go through, you know?
Okay, I'll try to do that. It's a little hard because the amount of classes I'm doing is outrageous at the present moment. I'm like on Rise, this Bhakti student platform 3 days a week. I'm putting out more seminars on there. And then I have this group, of course. And then I have like these small groups where I'm like teaching Gita as one group and another group, another thing and another thing. So it gets hard to do it sometimes, but I'll try.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank y'all. Okay, so till tomorrow, Hari Om Tat Sat. Thanks a lot. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur ki jai, Sri Raghav Chandrika ki jai. Go Hari Hari Bol.